in dust. It's so dusty. There's literally a dead spider on this one, so... Hello, silly gooses. So here's the thing. I'm the type of person who likes to keep my read books and unread, like TBR, separate. Hence the TBR cart. But you could see it barely even fits in the frame. She's getting a little out of control. It's a little bit ridiculous. Some of them have been on that cart for years. And some of them I have had since even getting the cart a few years ago, which means they've been on my TBR for like even longer. And at this point, like, am I ever going to read those? I
It doesn't seem like it.
So really the main goal is to make this TBR cart not look completely out of control, because also the TBR cart obviously is unread, but so is this shelf is like unread TBR. And what you never see is that I also have two piles on the floor. One pile, and there's another pile right behind it, that's like overflow TBR. Doesn't fit on my floating shelf or my cart, literally just on the floor of unread books. And even my like floating shelf piles, you're really all over the place today. Even these like floating shelf piles are getting a little tall for my liking. So we're just gonna try our best to be very honest with myself on whether I'm actually going to read these books, whether I think I will care about actually owning them. You know, unless I really think I'm gonna love it, unless I really think I'm gonna maybe annotate it or add to a certain collection or a certain shelf or whatever. Like, I'm gonna try and be honest with myself, because the carrot, the reward for myself, is for every book that I unhaul, I'm gonna add $1 to my Starbucks account. Because listen, whatever drugs they put in this new pistachio cream cold brew is out of this world. Like, I don't know what it is, but I need me more pistachio cream cold brew. However, I used to be a daily Starbucks drinker, like $5, $6 a day, sometimes twice a day, okay? And I broke that habit like maybe a year or so ago, broke my daily Starbucks habit, and now I really love my like making coffee at home morning routine. So Starbucks now like really does feel like a treat. So this feels like the perfect little reward. This should sustain me, depending on how many books I can unhaul, what kind of chunk of change I can put into my Starbucks account. That should be a nice little treat that should last me a while, at least until they run out of or discontinue the pistachio cream cold brew. I don't know what it is about that drink, but it's really scratching an itch right now. I do also have a stack of like normal unhaul books that I've read and just don't care to own anymore. So we'll go over that too, but mostly I wanted you to see like a before of the cart, the shelf that we've discussed, and my pile of shame on the floor. I'm going to tear into this cart and see what I can bear to part with, and then we will be back. Oh my god. I'm just gonna start by taking everything off. You know, Marie Kondo this shit. Okay.
All I'm keeping track of is the weather, and there's no wind, no sun, nothing. 80 days and I'm not feeling better.
Literally covered in
But a
dust.
sweet relief is finding me.
Empty! What? Wow. Okay. Pretty cool. Oh boy. Okay.
No one to please. I just got that rhythm autumn never leaves.
So this is nice. This is really good. Here's what we're working with. Now for the fun part. Some of these are so dusty, but I'm gonna be dusting as I go.
Wanted it bad. Always tried too hard, but now that's over. I can finally be me. There's no love under the portrait. Ain't got no loyalties, no one to please. I just got that good.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm not doing so good. I am not doing very good. I do want to read all of them, so it's hard. It's harder than I thought, honestly. I'm gonna have to be stricter, I think.
I can finally be me. There's no love under the portrait. Ain't got no loyalties, no one to please. I just got that good. Breathing more than ever leave, setting my soul free.
So, okay, it's the next day because it took me so long to go through all of it, but you can tell, hopefully, it's not as ridiculous. Sunday's back to say hello. This is her one greeting of the day. Hi. The good news is there are no more piles of shame on the floor. This is like pretty reasonable. Like this stack is not really what I want it to be quite yet, but it's like reasonable. There's nothing on the floor. The cart is not overflowing and you can't really see the floating shelves. Those are still stacked pretty high, but it's not out of control, you know? And those I've rearranged. We're gonna do a whole like TBR tour in a later video, okay? Don't you even worry. Don't you even worry. But those are like top priority TBR. This is now 2 shelves of fiction, 1 shelf of nonfiction instead of 2 nonfiction and 1 towering fiction shelf. It's good. I feel great about it. I feel so much lighter. I'm so excited to get all of these out of my house. And honestly, like, I don't think I'm gonna miss them that much. There's like 1 or 2 maybe in this pile that I may or may not decide to take back out of the pile, but I think I'm gonna hard commit to getting rid of all of them. It feels nice to have everything off my shelf, you know? And since we've already been here this long and the unhaul has not even begun, okay, I'm not gonna go into like lengthy descriptions of why I'm unhauling them. It's just they did not meet the qualifications, did not spark joy. And a lot of these, like I have a whole stack of nonfiction. I do love me a nonfiction, but there's some that like I would rather just like read on audio or don't feel like I need to own or I've just had around forever. You get it. Let's get this party started. Coming off the TBR cart in the fiction pile, first is Why the Last Man, and this is so silly. I've literally had this for years. It would probably take me an hour to read. I've probably had this for a decade. It's a graphic novel about what if there was only one man left in the entire world, and like I haven't read it by now. I'm just not gonna read it. Like, that's it. Then I have these that I believe are both historical fictions, and it's honestly, I'm getting rid of them because I would rather have the paperbacks. So if I find the paperbacks used, I will pick those up instead. I have How Much of These Hills is Gold and The Island of Sea Women. And for some reason, historical fiction, similar to romance, I just would prefer to have in paperback, I think. It's just a fact that I've accepted about myself. So these are moving on. I have 2 small little books. One is Pond by Claire Louise Bennett. And this one is Heather the Totality by Matthew Weiner. I really like like the attractiveness of like small, like artsy books with artsy covers like this, and then I never read them. Again, both of these, like around 100 pages, would probably take me an hour or two to actually read, but instead they've been collecting dust. So they are leaving my house. This is one of the ones in this pile that I kind of hemmed and hawed about, but this is Louise Erdrich's The Sentence, and it's a signed first edition. I got this used for a bargain. I was going to read this last year for the Women's Prize vlog that I crashed and burned on. Here's the thing, I straight up do not love this cover. The back is like kind of water damaged, like warped. It was that way when I got it. And I just, like, I think this is one I'd be fine to read on audio. I'd be fine to have a paperback. Someone else will be very excited to find a signed edition of this. You know, it's okay. I don't need to hold on to it. Next is If Then by Kate Hope Day, which I was originally really excited when I picked this up because I read her most recent release and really, really loved it. I read it on my Kindle though, and I just don't feel like I need to own this. Like, I loved her other book that I read, but I'm not going to be in a rush to read this, honestly. And I think when I am finally in the mood for it, I will happily get it from the library, or audiobook, or ebook, or paperback, is really the theme of this unhaul. Next is this story collection that I bought years ago from Goodwill because of the cover, and then I never ever read it. I never even thought about reading it. I never was even like tempted to like open it up and look at the first page, but the cover is so cool. This is Verge by Lydia Yuknovich, and it's a story collection, and it's this super cool groovy retro cover with like a wolf in the middle, and I'm sure it's good, but I haven't even been remotely tempted in the last several years, and I just don't see that changing. Oh no, now I'm reading the blurbs, and there's people that I really love that have blurbed it, and we're gonna pretend I didn't see that. This was another one I had to kind of talk myself into. Nine Fox Gambit by Unhaul Lee. I know that this is great, and I kind of forgot that I even owned this. I just don't see myself wanting to own this, and honestly, I don't know that I want to keep a paperback copy. And I know what you're saying. That's all you've said this entire unhaul so far. Here's the thing. My sci-fi and fantasy, I like to have hardcovers. Everything else is like okay to have in paperbacks, but if this is a series that I end up like loving and want to actually collect, I'd rather collect hardbacks. I know this doesn't make sense, but it makes sense to me, and it's my little home collection. Okay, roll with it. Then I have a children's Bible by Lydia Millett. This came out a couple years ago. I was really excited about it when it came out, and then I was really excited to find it for $1 at a thrift store, like the year it came out. And then I haven't even thought about reading it. I haven't even been tempted to reach for it a single time. So this is gonna find a new home. It's fine. The next two are kind of similar, like adult dystopians, I want to say. The first one is On Such a Full Sea by Chong-Ra Lee, and I could totally see myself loving this book, but at the same time, I could totally see myself getting this on audiobook or in paperback. So, or from the library. You know, like this hasn't been on the tippy top of my like absolutely must read short list. So this is like a big book. I don't really need to keep holding on to it. Same goes for this copy of Golden State by Ben Winters, and I have held on to this because this is like a Californian, like near future dystopian, I think, and like that sounds great to me. I would be interested in reading this. However, I'm gonna part with it because I'm only gonna say this once, but there are a few more of these in this video. I straight up just am not crazy about the quality and design of Book of the Month covers. Like, what is this? What is this? Just nothing on the back of the book. I find them very flat and two-dimensional in like comparison to their other published covers, for example. I really dislike like their logos, and I know that Book of the Month is affordable. I know they have great picks. I know it's a very popular subscription service. You're not going to hear me say it again. I just do not love the quality of them. So I am parting with all of my Book of the Month editions once and for all. Next I have Sing Unburied Sing by Jessamine Ward. This, I've heard literally fantastic things about it, and I really, really do want to read it. It's actually pretty high on the priority list. However, I've also heard that the audiobook is like fantastic. So I know that I will only read like the audiobook. Like why would I not read the audiobook if I know that's the best experience to take in the story? So I don't feel like I need to own the physical book anymore, you know? Okay, then I have 2 novellas. I have Binti and Binti Home, and I'm only parting with these because I have the complete bind up of the series that has the like extra bonus story in it also. So it feels silly to just hoard multiple copies of a series that I haven't even read yet, you know? Like if I'm gonna read it, I will read like the completed bind up that I have now, so someone else can treasure these novellas. Even though like I do like these covers better than the cover on the bind up, but like that's okay. You know, it's a compromise. So that's the fiction stack from my TBR cart. I'm gonna go through the nonfiction stack from my TBR cart, and then the complete other stack from my red shelves. That is just like books I've read that I want to unhaul. Why did I just say the same thing twice? Okay. So again, a lot of these are books that I still would love to read. I just am tired of like watching them collect dust on my cart. Like it's been long enough. And if they call out to me again, I will happily get them from the library, you know? Okay, the first one, like I said, first one is Shrill by Lindy West, Notes from a Loud Woman. I'm sure this is great. I've heard this is great. I just would like a different copy, right? I have Dress Your Family in Corduroy and Denim. This is a David Sedaris essay collection. I think I got this from a thrift store years ago because I loved that it was like a naked Barbie cover front and back. And then I never cracked it open. Never even thought about cracking it open a single time. So again, like doesn't need to collect dust. I have Eat, Pray, Love that I've never read. And I have this pretty beat up used copy that I got used probably from some Goodwill that's like saturated with Eat, Pray, Love copies. I don't know. I was really going through a phase a few years ago after I read Wild by Cheryl Strayed and was like, I want to read every book that's ever been written on this, and I should start with Eat, Pray, Love. And then I never did that. And like at this point, I just don't think I actually have any interest in ever bothering to read Eat, Pray, Love. Like this is not, I think, the right decade for this anymore. Women's Ways of Knowing, the Development of Self, Voice, and Mind. I don't know, there was a period when I very first started my YouTube channel that I was like actively collecting books about this kind of thing, like niche explorations of like women's experiences, and I am just not super interested in actually reading them. Like there's plenty of other books that I have that are a little bit more modern, a little bit more like inclusively researched, and I don't know. This just feels like not the one I want to spend my time reading. So it's moving on. Kind of similar with these 2 books. I have Women Who Charmed the West and High-Spirited Women of the West. I remember being excited when I found these and then kind of flipped through them and was like, like all of these seem like kind of the same lady. I don't know. It was like more the idea of these books, and then the brief overview that I got of them was like a little bit lackluster. So we're not overthinking that, but I'm getting rid of them. Then I have this random short book, again, would take me probably an hour to read, but I just never have, and I don't know that I will. It's called The Girls with the Grandmother Faces. This is actually signed also. It almost makes me think it's like a local author. I just can't be bothered. And I hope that someone else will be more excited about it than me. You know, like that's really been the mantra of this process. I was like, just because I'm not excited about it doesn't mean that someone else won't be. And so I feel like we're just pushing these books out to people that will actually treasure them. I have my copy of Myths to Live by Joseph Campbell. This is one that I have like flipped through here and there, but I've never read it like cover to cover, and it's very dense. It's like a popular kind of a classic in a way. It's very dense. I don't think I ever will be interested reading it cover to cover, so there's no need to have it in my house. Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Puffs. I 100% bought this for the title and the cover used, but this is like a collection of essays about pop culture, but it was published in like 2004. So I just feel like there are plenty of other essay collections that are a little bit more timely that I would rather spend my time reading. So as much as I love this cover and think it's like very fun, I don't need to keep holding on to it. This is funny. I'm getting rid of my copy of Metaphysical Poetry and Anthology because I'm never gonna read this. I have other poetry I'd rather spend my time on, and this, every time I try to crack this open, I have made attempts. It feels like gibberish. It's written in normal English, but it's just one of those books that is so like wacky and convoluted. Like, let me just find an example on a random page.
Then burning through the air he went, and palaces and temples rent, and Caesar's head at last did through his laurels blast. 'Tis madness to resist or blame the force of angry heaven's flame.
Like, I don't know. This book makes me feel stupid. And there's other books I'd rather read, like other poetry books I'd rather read. So, moving on. Okay, this one I debated also unhauling or not, but it's The Moon by Whalelight by Diane Ackerman, which is, I do like having on hand a stack of like nature nonfiction in my TBR. And I still have, trust me, I still have a healthy stack on this bottom shelf of nature nonfiction. This one I put on my TBR on probably one of the first videos on this channel. And then I remember that I read like 50 pages of it and was just so bored and lost, and again, very dense writing. And I've read enough nonfiction now that I know it's very possible and reasonable to write nonfiction in an engaging educational way that doesn't feel dry and dense and boring. So I just don't have any interest in really getting back to this, even though it sounds good. Like The Moon by Whalelight and Other Adventures Among Bats, Penguins, Crocodilians, and Whales sounds great. Maybe I'll listen to the audiobook, but I don't need to own it. Okay, this is one that I bought used forever ago because there was a period where I was just collecting all the books about writing that I possibly could. And I found this one, I'd never heard of it before, Turn Not Pale, Beloved Snail, a book about writing among other things. Wow, a book about writing among other things. Sounds great, let me buy it. Never looked at it, never even thought about looking at it. So there's plenty of other books about writing and other things that I do still have on my shelf that are higher on the priority list. I just don't realistically see myself ever actually reaching for this. That's it. These last three nonfictions, I do actually seriously, genuinely want to read. Like, they are in a priority space on my nonfiction TBR. I just do not need to own these copies. Like this one, The Sixth Extinction by Elizabeth Colbert? I don't know. This is pretty banged up. Like, it has this sticker that I couldn't really get off. There's like kind of like grime all around it. It's like kind of discolored. There's like a stamp on the edge. And I'm not often someone who like requires that her books must be pristine. Most of my books I buy used anyway, like it's fine. But this one, it's like, I've had it for a long time. I haven't read it yet. And like, if I do get around to really wanting to read this, I would rather just have a nicer copy, or like listen to the audiobook or something. So I don't feel like I need to keep holding on to it. In a very similar note, I have Time, Love, Memory, A Great Biologist and His Quest for the Origins of Behavior. I know that this is amazing. I've heard this is amazing. I really do want to read this, but also this cover, first of all, does nothing for me, even if it was in perfect condition, but it's also like kind of damaged up here. It's pretty discolored. It's pretty dirty. The pages are kind of yellowed. Like, I, again, have had this for a very long time, have never reached for it to read it. So I think that I will request this on audiobook, if not have like a different paperback copy. Like, we'll see. Then very lastly, from my TBR cart unhaul, before we get to the everything else unhaul, is The World Without Us by Alan Weisman. If there's one in this stack that I might actually pull out and keep, it's probably this one. This is in fine condition. I am very interested in reading it. This is about like what would happen if humans disappeared from Earth tomorrow, like all the infrastructure, all the pollution, all of the framework that humans have like left on Earth. Like, what would happen? That's just such an interesting idea, and I would love to be able to like compare that to like fiction that I read, especially like dystopian fiction, for example. But somehow I've just never reached for it. I've owned it for a while. And so I've just been telling myself, like, it's been this long, you know, when you finally do get the itch to actually read this, it's gonna be easy peasy to just go and get this from the library. So those were all the books that I have not read that I'm unhauling. And then I have this stack of books that I have read that I'm unhauling. Okay, let's do this. First is Witches of Brooklyn. This is a really cute middle grade graphic novel, but it's also the first in a series, and I just have no desire to continue the series. I don't see myself ever going back to reread this. It was very sweet. I liked it enough, but it's not enough for me to like hold on to it forever. So someone else will be excited about this. Notes of a Crocodile. This is like a cult classic. We read this for Found in Translation last year. It just really was not the book for me. I didn't really connect to any of the characters. I know that it's well beloved otherwise, so hopefully we'll find a better home, but that's it. I have nothing really more profound to say. Paul is Dead. This is a graphic novel about a conspiracy theory about Paul from the Beatles dying and then like them covering it up. I hated this. I hated it. So I'm not gonna keep it in my house. Two more graphic novels that I'm getting rid of. One is Hawkeye, My Life as a Weapon. I just don't give a shit about Hawkeye. I'm sorry. And then I have Huck Book 1, and I remember enjoying this, but like I couldn't tell you a single thing that happened, and I definitely have no interest in going back to it or continuing with the series. So like it just was taking up space. Oh boy, now we get into the juicy stuff. It happened one summer. I hated this book. I hated this book so much. I have a whole vlog rant on how much I did not like this book, and I know that I'm in the minority of people not liking this book, so I know that someone else will be excited to pick this up used in perfect condition. Okay, I went out on a special mission to Barnes & Noble for the vlog to buy this book, read it, hated it, and now it's on its way to someone else. So you're welcome in advance. Frankenstein by Jeanette Winterson. I read this for my Frankenstein vlog last year. This was my least favorite by far from the vlog. It's like dual timelines. It's kind of speculative. There were parts that were okay, and it was mostly really not for me. So even though I like the idea of collecting as many like Frankenstein adjacent books as I can, this one I just don't need to hold on to. I have held on to this for way too long because it's just so pretty. Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. Again, one that I know is pretty beloved, but I really did not like this book. And I've held on to it because I like how it's written. Like there's a fun gimmick involved in the writing of this book. And I thought, okay, maybe I would go back and reread or try and reappreciate how it was done. But like, if I'm honest with myself, That's absolutely never happening. Like, I'm never going to go back to this book knowing how much I did not enjoy the experience. So this is a beautiful book. It's in fantastic condition, and someone else hopefully will like it better than I did. The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery. I just recently read this in December, I think. I actually loved it. A great book. I just hate this cover. If there's one thing about me that you're probably learning, it's that I don't like ugly books. I'm sorry. I know that we're not supposed to judge books by their covers, but I am judging. This is atrocious. This is atrocious. I don't feel like I need to keep owning this. If I were to reread it again, I would go back to the audiobook or try and find a different cover maybe, get it from the library again. This just does not need a space of honor on my shelf. Then I have 2 books from my most recent vlog. I think it's going up before this video so that I can say that. One is Small Town Big Magic by Hazel Beck. DNF'd this, hated it so much, couldn't even get to 50%. Beautiful cover, really exciting premise, just was really not the book for me. And I don't need that bad energy in my home. And then also, I'm gonna get rid of The X-Hex by Erin Sterling. This one was fine if you watched the vlog. Like, there was nothing wrong with this book. I enjoyed my time reading this book. I just don't ever see myself wanting to go back to it for any reason. So I'm sure someone else, hopefully, will like these more than me. And then kind of similarly, next is You're a Mean One, Matthew Prince by Timothy Janowski. I really wanted this to be a fun gay holiday romance, and it was a gay holiday romance, but I don't know that I would call it fun. Like, it really wanted to be a rom-com, but it was barely rom, and it definitely was not com. Like, I just, again, I don't think I'd ever go back to this. I rated this at 2 stars. Like, this, it's leaving my romance shelf. Yes, and then we have the rest of my Book of the Month books that I'm finally just getting rid of. 2 or 3 of these I would still really like to own if I ever were to reread them. But if I reread them, that means I'm going to annotate them. And if I annotate them, I want it to be a copy of the book that I actually like. So we're purging. The first one is The Book of Longings by Sue Monk Kidd. Loved this book. I would love to reread. I would love to annotate, but I just want a different edition before I reread and annotate. You know, I don't care if that's shallow. I know it's shallow. That's just the way it is. Then I have The Library of Legends by Janie Chang. I really enjoyed this. It's historical fiction with a little sprinkle of magical realism. I wouldn't, it's like, what? This drives me crazy. I wouldn't mind rereading this, but again, like, just want a different copy. Same for Micaiah Johnson's The Space Between Worlds. Loved this book, would love to reread it, but you know the spiel by now. And then also, same as all the ones before, An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. Loved this book, loved this series, would not mind rereading this and annotating it one day, but you guessed it, different copy please. We are almost done. Wow. I can't wait to have these books out of here. Next is The Young Elites by Marie Lu. I love Marie Lu. She's one of my favorite young adult authors, has been for years and years and years. However, I was not super impressed by The Young Elites, and I do plan on still continuing the series. I'm slowly working through all of Marie Lu's backlist. It's just, I don't think I need to own this particular series. I'd be happy to listen to this on audiobook or get from the library, etc. So, it's not really that deep in this case. This is a book called Legendary Ladies, 50 Goddesses to Empower and Inspire You. And I really wanted this to be more in the style of Bad Girls from the same publisher, which I also own and really enjoyed that book. It's just like all of these biographies and art about like quote unquote bad girls through history, and I wanted this to be the same but about goddesses, but instead this was pretty woo-woo, and like I'm pretty woo-woo, but it was a little much for me. It was like I wanted more myth and I got more like sparkle emoji, so whatever. And then the last 3 are a few picks from my book club that I just didn't end up like loving or don't feel like I'd ever reread them. The first is Cunning Women by Elizabeth Lee. This was my very first pick for my book club, which at the time was called Hot Girl Book Club, back in October of 2021. And to this day, it is my least favorite book we've ever read for book club. And so it's time. It's time that she takes her leave. Then we have Shallow Waters by Anita Kopax. I am still super sad about the fact that I did not love this book. My co-host also did not love this book. I think most of the people that read along with us this month did not love this book. My favorite part about this book was like the foreword from the author and then like the very end, like, you know, little bookends on the book itself. But that's okay. It'll find a better home. And very last is Olga Dies Dreaming by Xochitl Gonzalez. This was a toughie because this is like a gorgeous book. I would hang this art in my house. It's literally in perfect, beautiful condition. I just know that I will never read this again. It ended up being kind of tough to get through, a little bit triggering. I just don't think I'd ever want to reach for it again, and so I just don't need to keep it, you know? That's it. Whew, I'm out of breath. That is it for my unhaul collection, and now I haven't counted yet, but that felt like a lot. So now we're gonna count and see how much I can put into my Starbucks app. I could not have made this shit up. This is exactly 50. Exactly 50. Wow. Wow, it's like I'm giving myself a $50 Starbucks gift card. I can't believe that is wild. That just worked out so like perfectly even. I swear I didn't plan that. Wow, what a project. I feel so much better. Literally, this is a dream. I'm so glad I did this. This was really a project. This took me all weekend, but I feel so good. I can't wait to put this cash in my Starbucks app, get a cold brew on the way to work tomorrow, probably as a little special treat. But I'm telling you, this $50 will last me a long time at Starbucks. Whew. Thank you for watching this wild ride, fun journey. Are there any, almost knocked off Matthew Prince, are there any books that I'm getting rid of that you want to make a case for, especially the ones that were like TBR cart books that I should give a chance still? Let me know all of your thoughts, concerns, questions, poetry, and or the coffee cup emoji, just for funsies. And while you're down there, don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you'd like to see more from me. You can come hang out on my Instagram at Noelle7pages if you want even more, you know, hang out, good times from me. Give your dog a big ol' squeeze from me, and I will see you very soon. Love you, bye!